Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolly Lulu Crafts, and today we are making a Christmas card, but this is a card that my mum's asked me to make for someone in particular, a young boy who loves football, so we need to make a football themed Christmas card. Okay, so I stamped him using Memento ink, black, tuxedo black, on my Copic Express It paper. So we're gonna start by doing his skin. So I'm just gonna, with all the colours that I'm using, I will put a photo or a list or whatever of the colours on the blog post, so just hop on over there if you want to know precisely what I've used. So I'm gonna start off with my pale colour, and I'm just gonna lay a quick sort of coat of that pale colour down on his skin here. Normally I wouldn't do his arms as well as his face, but because it's such a small area, it's not going to be a big deal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take not our darkest colour but our next lightest colour, and we're just going to mark up where we want the shadows to be. This means that if I do it wrong, if I'm like, oh no, I don't like that, it doesn't matter because it's not so dark that it's going to be a big deal. And I'm not being too fussy, it's not a big deal where they go, it's just a rough idea. Then I'm going to go with my darkest colour. This isn't my normal darkest colour, but for such a little character, and I'm not too worried, I want it not too complex, so I'm just going for a colour that's one down from what I would normally do. And I think that will work fine for what I'm looking to do here. Oh, and I didn't do the neck. So then we're going to our next darkest colour down. And you're basically going over the dark colour and slightly bigger. So it's just coming out a little bit more. So by going over it, you're slightly blending it. By coming out a little bit, you're just widening that shadow, making that blend start to come. So by that I mean is, like, say I put this line down here, and then I take this pen and I'm going to colour, let's make it wide so you can see what I mean. So like that, that's the first colour, say, and then I'm going to take my next marker and I'm going to be going here, but also very slightly over the edge of this one. So I'm blending out that edge and I'm then moving forward just a smidge, and then you'll do the same with the next one and the next one. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I don't normally do like colouring lessons, but I have been asked a few times to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I thought, well, this is a bit of a more simple character, so I thought it would be nice just to actually talk through this one rather than stuff on a load of music and just let you work it out. There we go. And then our next darkest colour, actually this is our second to lightest colour in fact. And then we're going to put a little bit of dark under there and a little bit under his chin and just a little bit coming around his cheek now, because we can put just a little bit more shadowing in some areas that weren't like super dark, but. And then our palest colour, which is the colour we lay down across the whole of it, we're going to do the same again. We're going to come to the edge of the colour, the last colour that we used, but we're going to come right out now over the whole of the face, and that basically blends out any harshness that you see. It's surprising just how much that does actually. And what you'll often find is it almost blends it takes too much colour out, and you need to then add just a little bit more dark. Okay, so now going back to our dark colour, or darkest colour, we're just going to do a very little bit, just to add a little bit of depth that we lost when we did that blending out. You tend to find you need to go just that tiny bit more than you think, because by the time you add the rest of it in, you almost lose it. It softens it out. At the moment it looks really harsh because you've only got white. So there we go. And we can always blend him a bit more if we need to. I think we do want the next colour just a little bit. Just a little. And quite often I will end up doing this like a couple of times before I feel like, yep, that's the right blend done now. But on something sort of like this, I probably will just go for a little bit more simple. But I can't help it, you see. I have to go back. It's like, okay, I've got to stop now. So now I'm going to add just a little bit of blush to his cheek. And then going back in with our palest colour, I'm literally just dotting around the edge of that blush. I'm not going over it because you've seen what happens when you go over it, it disperses the colour completely, but I just wanted to go around the edge of the colour just to blend it out into the skin. So that's the skin done. Happy with that. Now what you don't want to do now is do any colouring for a few minutes that's next to what you've just done, because it basically, the paper is getting slightly damp, and if you go next to it you can have the colours kind of blend together a little bit. So we're going to now work on his trousers. I'm going for black. Now this, to me, next to red, is one of the most difficult colours to colour, I think. But I really want to have the black in here because I've got some black in the outside and I just wanted to draw it in and make it make sense. So I felt that this would work. So you will find is that you use a black and then your greys. So I'm going to start with my palest grey, and like I did with the skin, I'm just going to map out where I want my shadowing to be. It's only a rough guide just to help me see where it needs to be. Now you don't want to, with black in particular and the reds, you don't want to over blend if you can help it. And it's really hard actually because you want to work the same way, but you need to just be careful because the blacks seem to bleed quite a lot compared to the other colours, so you just want to watch that. You don't want that happening where it bleeds out into your other sections, so you just need to be really careful. So now I'm going in with my black, and again I'm just going to be really cautious with this. You don't need a lot. You can always go back, but you can't take it away. Okay, I'm not going to do the other leg yet. I'm going to do them one at a time so I can be sure to have the wetness of the ink. I don't want it to dry off too much. I want to be able to blend it out. So now I'm going in with my grey. And it's an almost black, this grey. It's really quite dark. So again, you don't want to add too much, that you lose the definition of your actual shape of your trouser. So then I'm going to go in with my palest grey. and just fill it all in, going over those other colours, trying to blend that through. But as I said, you just need to be careful, you don't want to over ink it. And then we're going to go back with my mid colour grey, and we're just going to add some more depth where it needs it. And again, we can always go in with the black, but I like to start on here with this mid colour. And then I'm going back in with my palest grey and just carefully building it up. Now I will confess that I did this already on some other paper. I thought I'd try it, and the blend, it was bleeding so much on this black because I just didn't work on that particular paper that I was using. I'm not going to say what it is, it doesn't matter, but it was annoying that, you know, I realised that compared to the Copic I just couldn't add the layering that I can add here. Again, my mid grey. It's about making it dark enough, but without losing Okay, I think that'll be fine. Just have a look once. Yeah, I think that'll be fine once the rest of it's done. It's just a case of seeing, but I think it's okay. I feel like it needs just a little bit more down here. That's better. That's better. It just wasn't quite dark enough down the bottom. I felt it just didn't have quite the shadow depth that it needed, so I am happier with that. There we go. So with the black, it is a case of just fiddling with it, and again, I think that once it all comes together, so it's sometimes you want to leave it even if you're not 100%, because you might find that when you come back to it later, it's okay when you've done the rest of it. Okay, so now I want to do his little tongue, because I think that's not far. It's dry enough now that we can do that. I do need just a little bit of a darker shade, so let's try. There we go. I think that worked really well. And then eyes, we need to add just a smidgy of colour to his eyes. Like that. And then I will take, I've got a black fine liner, and I'm just going to go into the eyeball and just darken that a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that's that. I think that looks fine. That we're going for like a brown. So we're not, again, it doesn't need a lot because there's only a very small amount of hair showing. next one. Okay. I just want to add a tiny bit of definition to the hair in the centre there. Okay, and then, not that one, this one. And then the palest, well not the palest actually, we've got one more. But I'm not going to add that one because that was the colour we laid down, and I feel like that's good as it is. Maybe just a little bit, just to blend that through. There we go. And I'm just going to use the pale colour and I'm going to push upwards just to take some of that colour back a little bit so that the paler comes through a bit more. There we go. So that's his hair. So for his shoes, I want to do like as if they're white. So for that you want to use greys just to add the shadow, but really pale. So I've got two here. I've got one that's slightly darker, very slightly, and then a very pale, and you can barely see it, but that blending through with your blender pen, you will get the effect of a white shoe. And I will do some blackish laces, I think. Or I might even do red or green or something. Yeah, I might do red actually. Okay, so let's take my darkest one. Since they're both so pale, I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that I'm laying down colour first. You know, like I did with the others using the light one. It's just not worth it. Okay, so you can see it's just very little added. You want to go one at a time, I think, just to make sure you get that blend come through. You don't want to go too deep with the colour. You don't want it to come too far out in the shoe. Okay, and then we're going to go in with our blender pen. We're not going to go over the top of the grey per se, we're just going to go on the edge of it, just to make sure the edge blends out nicely into the white. It will look weird at this point because you'll see the wetness of the paper. So you need to let it dry before you can really tell how it's blending out properly. There we go. And then we're going to do the other shoe. So you don't want very much really, in my opinion. You just need it quite delicate. Now this one's further back, so you get away with it being just a little bit darker. Because it is more shadowy back there. So I'm not going to go with on this one, I'm not going in with my blender pen. I want it to be that little bit more shadowy. Then I'm going to go in with my red markers just to add the laces in red, and also down the side here. Actually, I might do the laces in black and just do these lines in red. Thinking about it. So using my darkest colour and then my lighter red. Now when you're doing red, like a lot of red, which I'm not going to be doing, you actually, if you're going really dark for the shadowing, you can go in with a brown as your dark colour and blend over it with like a bent burgundy after that, because otherwise you just don't get the depth of colour that you need. And then just tidy up any little bits that with your blender pen. There we go. And I think I'll do that little whatever it is in the red as well, just because I'm doing the top in red and green to make it that Christmassy effect. I'm not going for team colours. I'm sure there is a team that's red and green, but I'm not a football person, so I have no idea. And then we're going to go back just on the edges again, just to add a little bit more darkness, like so. There we go. Now on this one down here, there's literally just this tiny bit of red there, and so I'm just not even going to bother trying to shade it. I'm just going to do it in that tiny little dot. And then we're going to go in here. I'm going to use my pale grey and my dark grey for the laces here. I will see if I need the black. I say pale grey and dark grey, they're not, I mean, it's not super pale. I think we will probably go in with the black at the very corners of the lace, but it's just about bringing these colours together really to try and make what's going to go on round the card fit in with what's going on in the image, so it just makes more sense. Now, I don't think it needs the black. I think it will bleed if I'm not careful, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I think that looks fine. I'm not going to touch it because if you fiddle too much, it all just goes horribly wrong, doesn't it? Okay, so that's that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is the jumper top. I don't know what you call it in football, but anyway, which is going to be in reds and greens. So I'm going to start with the greens, I think. No, the reds. I want the red to be more prominent. So let's start with the dark red. I'm going to put that here. And I did have a third colour, but I think I might just stick to the two, we'll see. And this is what I was saying to you about, and I might actually just go in with my brown, because you just don't get the depth of colour you need. So you put a little bit of brown, then you go over it with your deep red, and then the brown turns red, as it were. And it just gives you that extra depth of colour. There we go. So I'm going to do this stripe red, since I managed to put red into that stripe. So let's go. Again, I'm going to start with my dark red up here, because we can always come back with more. You know, we can add the brown is what I'm trying to stutter, it's because I'm concentrating. Yep, we definitely need some brown in there, just at the top here, and also just a little bit here to add where that crease is. There we go. So then we're going to go, the next stripe along is, there we go. So that's our red stripe. So we've got a couple of bits that have leaked, but as I said, by the time we put the green on, as long as we make sure our blend pen has dried where we've tried to move it before we go over it with the green, then we'll be okay. So I think what we'll do is we'll do his little hat next. So I'm assuming this is all the hat, and then there's like a thingy out the back that's all part of the hat as well. I'm going to do the whole thing in red. Okay, so I'm just adding my shadow of the brown. And then we're going to go in with my burgundy. Again, with the burgundy, we go across all of the brown because you want to change the brown into basically dark burgundy. And then poppy red, I think it's called, no, lipstick red. And again, I'm just going over some of the burgundy as well because I really want to blend that through. There we go. I think that looks okay. So now I think that's probably dry enough that we can do our stripes, especially if we start over this side. So let's start with my darkest colour. And then my mid colour. And then our palest. I think I might have got those two the wrong way around. Not to worry. Lovely. Okay, so that's our little lad all coloured in. So I think, actually no, that's not quite all done. I always like to go around with, just to give it some dimension on the page. So it sort of sits it onto the page. I always think that looks really good. So as I say, now he's coloured in, so I'm going to pop him to one side and then we'll get on to the actual making of the card. Taking my piece of white card, I'm just going to pop that down on there. Then I'm going to take my die. I'm going to angle it very slightly. That just helps us get it through the machine. So then we pop that in and run that through. Okay, so I just ran that through to emboss as well. So we have now got those gorgeous little trees embossed and all the detail done as well. So I think that's quite important. So I'm going to just get my little pad thing here and my little tool, because I think that's the easiest way to get these bits out. Doesn't that look nice? So that's that bit done. I'm just going to clear this up and then we're going to put the next layer through. Okay, so I cut out just the aperture from a piece of black card. It's not, any of these two are not cut to size yet, but once we've cut that down, we'll know what size to cut this down to make sure it fits behind my piece there. I then cut out the center element that comes in the die. There's like a circle and this lovely little scene, so I cut that out, and what you get is you get these extra bits that I haven't popped out yet. You get the moon as well as extra, obviously, but I want to keep that and then stick that onto my black piece here behind. I'm gonna just pop it back in, so that should look really good. So that's that, and then I want to cut out a Happy Christmas, and also some letters, but I'm not quite sure colours on that yet, so I'm not going to cut those out quite yet. So don't forget to keep that little bit as well. But what I did was, to be sure that it doesn't happen again, is I've just taped them in place, so until I'm ready to stick that down, because I'm not sure whether I've decided to put it down flat or to pop it up. By the way, you can't really see it very well, but it has got embossing on this one as well. So yeah, we've got that now, so that's all good. Okay, so I've cut this down, and then what you can't do is just measure this and then cut this the same, because you might get this slightly off and then that's not going to work. So what you need to do is put your white piece down onto the black. Either stick it down and then cut it, but I think that's a little risky, or if you're doing it bigger then it doesn't matter. But what I did was I just held it down and I drew little corners with my pencil, and then I just lined it up with my made sure each pencil mark lined up, and then that's come in perfectly. I then just took a slither off the bottom because it just gives me the opportunity to have it not poking out the bottom with the black. And that's what I did. So that's going to give me a really cute kind of Christmassy night feel to it. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is add some glue and add some crystal sparkles. So I've got this gorgeous Cosmic Shimmer Glitter Jewels. This is called Iced Snow. And let me just show you, it's so nice. And what I like about it is that it's not super fine, so it's going to look really nice, and we're just going to add it to the areas here on the bottom and over the trees and stuff, and a little bit around the edges here as well, but not so much here, mostly just around the bottom parts where the houses are. Have a little bit thicker glue so that it definitely will attach those glitter pieces. So we're just going over the trees here, just pop that onto a piece of paper and sprinkle and then I like to give it a few seconds just to, as it were, absorb into that glue. And then while that's doing that, we're going to do the same on this little chap down here. I'm just going to move this up a bit so that I want to just put a little bit on, just randomly, like on maybe the stars here. Oh, we missed one there. And don't worry about how much you chuck down, because you know it's gonna what doesn't get used you'll collect up again, so it's no big deal. And you'll pop it back in the pot. So there you go. I don't know if you can, oh yeah, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I know it's a bit hard to get the focus because of what's going on beneath, but, and then on there as well. And then on this one, that pretty? So we're going to let that dry properly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is die cut my sentiment and also my letters, which is going to be a name. It's going to be the name Harry, because that's who the card is for. So I've got this gorgeous festive collection, Contemporary Happy Christmas from Sue Wilson. So we're going to do that one. And then I've got this Tim Holtz Sizzix, what's this one called? Alphanumeric Classic Lowercase. And I just thought it was really nice, and I felt like it went quite nicely stylistically with the happy on here as well. So okay, so there they are all cut out, and so let's start with our Happy Christmases. Whoops. The green is a lot finer, thinner paper, so it's just a little bit more fiddly. But I think it's just nice when you build them up like this. It really adds a nice effect, I think. Okay, so let's then take our next Happy Christmas and just line it up. Like so. Okay, and of course once the glue itself dries, it starts to harden off the actual elements, so you're getting some depth already. Obviously you can do more layers as well, but you're getting that depth. You see, so that just moved again. But then, as I say, once it dries, you get that firmness to it as well, and it becomes just like a little chipboard piece. It's amazing how lovely it turns out. So I want to be just a little bit more careful on this one, because this is a thinner piece of paper and the glue, and it's the top layer. Okay, so sort of green from the top, but as you catch it from a different side angle, you see you'll get that white, and I think that looks quite effective. Obviously it would look really nice offset as well, but then that is going to go on my red here, so I think that's going to be good. So just pop that to one side so it can set, dry basically, and then we're going to take these letters now. So we don't want to ruin that bit of paper because that's perfectly fine. Okay, so we're going to take each letter obviously individually. Okay, so there it is done. I did that one straight as you saw me do, and this one I did offset, and I think that looks quite effective. So again, I'm going to put this to one side. This one is already pretty good and dry. It's coming up nice and solid, but the letters need a little bit more time, so we're going to pop that to one side while we do the next part of the card. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is stick this layer and this layer to their background pieces. Okay, so that's that one done, and there's the second bit. Whoops. And it's just so pretty with the sparkle on as well. So my finished card is a little bit of a weird dimensions, but it's based around what I'm doing outside of this. So this is 4 across by 5 1/4 down. I want 1 3/4 inches top and bottom, which means my mat, which is my red one here, is going to be 8 3/4. Side to side I want an extra 3/4 each side, So that means my mat is a total of 5.5. So basically I want to cut it 5.5 by 8 3/4, and that will give me a finished card of 9 by 5 3/4. And then I want to do my white piece. Now I want that to be 5 3/4 across, like so, but I want it to be 9 long when it's finished, but I need, because obviously I can't fold this in half to make a, you know, have an 18-inch piece of card, so I need this to be 9 inches plus 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do it at 9 3/4, and then I'll cut another piece at precisely 5 3/4. I think I just cut 2. No, I didn't. By 9. And we'll score the bigger of the two at 3/4 of an inch. And then we'll get some red liner tape, because you want something that's got a bit of strength to it. I'm going to line that up at the top here. Whoops. So that you create your card base. It's quite an unusual shape actually, it's kind of cool. I quite like that. And then this piece will mat on there. There we go. Then I've cut a piece of pattern paper just with snowflakes on. I just wanted to give it a little bit more Christmassy interest, like that. I've added a bit of the green on the inside, so it's got the green Christmassy going on there. So then what we want to do is cut my little footballer so he's the same size as this frame, well, just under the size of the frame. So we need to make sure he's lined up correctly, and then we need to get a pencil and we need to mark it just at the 4 corners, and then one more, and then that should, fingers crossed, now I've chopped it up, fit. Yep, phew, that's always the nerve-wracking part. So that's going to fit like that, but we're going to be popping this up because we're going to make it into a shaker card. So we need to stick this little guy down on here. We need to do it where we need him to be. So it's just by that snowflake there. So I'm just going to lightly mark that because we know that that should be covered up. We know that should. We believe that will be covered up because the frame is slightly bigger than our little chap here. So I'm just going to stick him down with tape. Line it up there. Making sure it's straight. There we go. We need to add a piece of acetate to the back of the card. I'm going to be using Snowfall acetate, and I want to cut this to about 5 by 3 3/4. There you go. So I'm going to stick this down. I'm just going to use a bit of tape and then just pop that down behind, like so. So now we've got our lovely snowfall aesthetic. Again, another element to adding it to make it look Christmassy. And then we're going to just use some of these foam strips to create our shaker elements, like so. Now, what's quite a nice thing to do when you've got acetate is just add a very light sprinkling of your anti-static tool. So I'm going to peel off the backings now, and then we're bringing in our card and some sequins. And so I've got some lovely red ones and some green. So just pop those into the centre, spread them out so that you don't want them in a big pile, because otherwise they tend to get caught when you try to shake it at the beginning and you have to end up tapping the heck out of them. I think I'll have a few of these limey ones because they go quite nicely with that, and then just a few of these darker greens just to bring it in line with Christmas, and I think that's good. What about some white ones for snow? There we go, spread them all out. I don't want too many because we don't want them to hide our little chap. And then we're going to get our shaker piece here. And stick that down. There you go, make sure that the shaker works, which it does. Yay! Doesn't that look cool? I want to add my different bits and pieces that need adding. So I've got my little Santa in the corner there. I've got my Happy Christmas, and then I've got his name. I also had a couple of bits here. I've got a couple of little snowflakes which I thought would be nice, and also a little star. This bit down next. I think that looks cute up there like that. I want to stick his name down. And this is a good thing about using this adhesive, is you have got some movement time, some wriggle time to get the letters straight and lined up, which is kind of handy. Yeah, like that. And then I want to stick the Happy Christmas down. Same idea, just using this adhesive here. Okay, so I thought I'd add a couple more stars because I thought they looked kind of cute. So football to me was just a bit of an odd theme to go for a Christmas card, so it was a bit of a fiddly one to work out, but I think we've got there. Just looking the inside, yeah, if I just add that little piece in there, that will just, again, add just a little bit of something to the inside. There we go. So that's our inside of the card, and that's the outside. So it's been a bit of a long project. I've still obviously got to make an envelope for this one. I have got my envelope maker. I don't know if that will do an envelope this size. I'm just going to have a quick look. I'm not going to make it with you guys, but I will tell you if it would do it. So this is 5 3/4. Oh, this actually only goes up to 8. So that's not going to. So we'll have to make one using my Easy Peasy envelope, and so I'll put a link to that in the blog post that goes with this video for you guys, so that you know how to make an envelope for an unusual shaped card like this if it doesn't have it on the envelope makers. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed making this with me. As you can see, there's all that beautiful sparkle on there. We've got the sequins, we've got the snowfall acetate, obviously the snowflakes, stars, personalised. I think if I was doing this for a girl, I probably would sparkle up the Merry Christmas and the name. But since it's a guy and we've already, or a boy, really, not a guy, but a boy's card, then I figured that we'd just not quite go as mad. I mean, I've already got a ton of sparkle on here, so I think that's probably more than enough. So that is it for today. I hope you've enjoyed. As I said, don't forget to go on across to the blog post that goes with this video. The link is in the paragraph below the video if you're on YouTube, and on there you'll have links to all the products used. I'll put a list of the colours used. I'll put photographs of the finished project, which I think you kind of need with this one in particular, I think, because you really don't get to see it as good until you see the photos, and you know what I'm like, I always take a ton. So I hope you enjoyed. Again, I say, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!